What do you really mean when you say theme? The word has a lot of definitions in creative writing world. It can mean the explicit moral of the story. It can mean a question driving the story, or relatedly, an idea the story is examining, or just an idea being gestured at, with no real exploration at all. A lot of people say theme when they mean a motif, a recurring element of a story that often symbolizes or gestures at a deeper idea. And sometimes there's none of the above, but there's still a certain emotional logic to everything that happens, and theme can get applied to that too. So when discussing stories, it's important to ask yourself, So in my first video on theme, I mentioned one definition being just an idea that you don't even really explore. I guess I forgot the word topic existed. Anyway, theme as topic is when you get asked what the story is about and you go, well, there's a war in it, so war? There's a romantic subplot, so I guess it's about love? That sort of thing. Easy, superficial, basically useless. Your story will have a theme or themes in this sense because a story is about people doing things in places. This is the least useful definition of theme hands down for actually figuring out anything about the story, and if it's the only one your teacher gave you, then you should sue or become the Joker or something. This channel does not constitute sincere legal, moral, or ethical advice. Do not sue or become the Joker or something. Thank you and have a nice day. Alright, so treating a theme as any topic your story vaguely touches on is useless. What about a topic you're actually exploring? I've mentioned in theme as question, giving the characters different views on the topic and having them fight it out. That's a pretty reliable way to handle it. Another way might be for characters to initially have the same opinion or no real opinion on the theme at all, and gradually develop different ones based on different experiences. It's a bit less of an argument in story form, unless you're notably lopsided with how sympathetic the portrayals are, and more of a portrayal of the real-life complexity of the topic. You know, unless you massively oversimplify some of the viewpoints or just write all but one viewpoint as patently stupid. An underlying, unspoken emotional logic to a series is sometimes referred to as a theme. This is probably the least common definition, but the most interesting. There's overlap with theme as a topic of exploration, but this form of theme is a bit less explicit, not as easy to pin down in words. Since it's the most abstract, I'll give an example. In the Star Wars original trilogy, the Force is not particularly systematized. There's a light and a dark side, but the powers aren't neatly divided between them. Instead, each of the Force users that we see on screen uses the Force in a way that reflects them as a person. Obi-Wan is a warrior monk who avoids and de-escalates conflicts when he can. He uses mind tricks, not because the movie is trying to say that mind control is a good guy power, but because it is a tool that aligns with how he lives his life. Darth Vader is the living symbol of the Empire's power. He chokes people to death just like the Empire itself chokes the life out of its subjects. Yoda is a wise old hermit. He barely uses the Force at all, and doesn't use it in any unique way, because he only uses it to teach Luke an important lesson. Luke himself doesn't have any unique Force power either, but at the start of Episode 6, he's walking a knife edge between Obi-Wan's teachings and Vader's example, with uncertainty about which side he'll fall on. He uses the Force both to manipulate minds and to choke a guard that stands in his way. And Emperor Palpatine is a sadist. He uses lightning, not because that's somehow more evil than mind control, but because it's more painful for the subject. There's no overarching message or real-world application to these, but it all fits together. It makes these movies about space wizards with barely explained magic feel coherent and sensible, even when the powers themselves, see the lightning, are coming out of nowhere. And that is an incredibly powerful application of theme.